But tonight, VHS Beyond. This is the 7th film in the VHS series and the 4th that we've been a part of. I think collectively we've all outdone ourselves. This is a really special movie. When we started making it last year, the idea was to add some sci-fi flavor to the horror, but really it was about how far can we push ourselves, what heights can the VHS franchise reach. And you'll see here we have creature horror, we have survival horror, we go to India for a film set. It ends in a sort of existential reckoning amongst the stars. There's fun, there's devastation, there's a lot of body parts. It's really scary and it's really gross and it's really fun. But maybe the most distinct thing about it is the wraparound. We did something very different for the wraparound this time. It takes the structure of a documentary about 2 mysterious tapes that were emailed to our director, Jay Cheel. We worked with Jay Cheel on a documentary series called Cursed Films. The veracity of these tapes is completely unverifiable. But this man you're gonna see throughout the movie, and he's gonna talk about not only the tapes, but he's gonna talk about the context around them and the context around what we seek when we watch tapes like this. So please welcome author and television host and wonderful man all around, Mr. Mitch Horowitz. Mitch, you said something interesting this week, which was, you know, VHS is largely a fiction film, and I say largely because, again, these tapes are unverifiable, that there was so much truthfulness in what you're saying, despite this being a narrative feature, and I want you to expand this on that. I want you to expand upon your role in understanding what these tapes are, and your role in your writing, and what you try to express.
Absolutely. First, I want to thank you and Shudder for all the support you have brought to auteur-driven horror. People are always looking for media that takes chances, and you and Shudder take chances. I was brought into the project by Jay, who I first met in a documentary project that was also part of Shudder, Cursed Films 1 and 2. And I'm sure some of you have seen Cursed Films, and if you haven't, you're in for an insane treat. Because Jay is a brilliant documentarian, and that's really a core part of his work as a filmmaker, as a documentarian. And so he brought me in to speak about UFOs as part of the wraparound. And I said to him, it was so ironic because ostensibly I'm a historian, I participate in nonfiction projects, and I said, you know, you pulled out of me the best interview I think I've ever delivered on the question of UFOs and aliens. And of course, Jay was never entirely clear or specific with me about the nature of the project. He just said, as you were alluding, well, you know, I was emailed these videotapes and, you know, I don't know, I'm not gonna go there. You know, Jay's a skeptic, and that's part of the reason why he and I became friends, because he's a true skeptic and he wanted a friend who could push back against him. I identify myself as a believing historian. And so Jay's not given to drama. In fact, he's very much the stoic. And he just said to me, he was emailed these tapes. And the funny thing is, I realized as we were just talking earlier this evening, I never actually witnessed anything at all behind the scenes of the film. I just viewed the tapes the way everybody else is going to tonight. And even the house where the events transpired, or ostensibly transpired, I wasn't there. They were having some visitor activities the particular day of my shoot, and we shot off location. So I'm as much an audience member as anybody else.
There's something you kind of get at that the audience will see, which is throughout history, we've called a lot of these visitations different things. Sometimes they were poltergeists, sometimes they're UFO encounters. It can be shaped by our culture as much as it can by what happened. Briefly, expand upon that in the sense of the things we experience that might be extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial, paranormal. Is it all kind of one thing?
I think it's certainly one conversation, you know, in the sense that we all reach for terms that belong to our generation. If somebody said they witnessed a gray white or a reptilian in our time, people have some idea, whether fictively or not, what they're talking about, but that language wouldn't have been decipherable 100 years ago. Sure. And I was discussing on the show Alien Encounters a book that Teddy Roosevelt wrote in 1893 called The Wilderness Hunter, and he was a very good writer, Roosevelt. And he told what we would call a Bigfoot story about this simian beast that had murdered a hunter in the woods and was stalking another hunter. And Roosevelt goes on for about 4 pages about this, very ingenuously reporting what he learned. This was on the Idaho-Montana border, like real wilderness, you know, in the mid to late 19th century. And he called it a goblin, just because that belonged to his generation. He, you know, Victorian era kid, probably grew up hearing goblin stories. So that belonged to him. You know, it wasn't 2 generations later till Kenneth Arnold very indirectly, you know, coined the term flying saucer, and we started using that language.
Yeah. Has anyone here been visited by aliens, supernatural, ghosts, poltergeists? Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else?
All
Thank
right.
you. And so you shall be visited tonight. Please enjoy VHS Beyond. Thank you.